that if you were going to start any business and it had to include Devin, Alec, and I as your employees, this is a serious question. What business would you start? What kind of business would you start? Some adventures begin in the middle of nowhere. This one begins in the middle of everywhere. Nashville, Tennessee.
I think this is just a solid Jim Beam. Like, if I'd say I would recommend this first. Okay. Because it would be, you're like, I'm starting to get into bourbon, but I really just like Jim Beam. Try Jim Beam 7.
What's the
It
proof?
won't.
It's proof
only
is
90 proof.
90?
Yeah. See, they need to have 7-year at,
Yeah, go high.
No, but that's where you go to Knob Creek.
Or a single barrel 7-year or something.
I would bet that this is the same mash bill as Knob Creek, the standard Knob Creek 9-year.
I don't think so. I don't get the same flavor profile.
Yeah, because that's aged 12 years. This is 7 years.
No, but it's different.
The profile does change.
We'll try that. We'll try it against it. Yeah. What, Alec? What's it called? The digestion system? Anaerobic. Anaerobic. Yep. Do you know what anaerobic digestion is? When you have less than 24 hours in Music City, you need to eat and drink as much as humanly possible. Now, Nashville was just a great place for us to land, but we've got a busy couple of days ahead of us. First, we'll go into the heart of Tennessee, then into Kentucky, and then to Michigan, on a mission. And for me, there's nothing better. I love being on the road with my brother, traveling through Whiskeyland, figuring out what the heck is really going on out there. Now, the last time we were in Tennessee, we heard a rumor that there was an energy company going around with a pull trailer, showcasing a method in which they could convert large distillery waste into renewable energy and farm fertilizer, using what was described to us as
an industrial cow. We take on this industrial waste or byproduct and we digest it in the same way, a cow's stomach is digesting what it eats. A cow's eating grass, we're eating, corn or whatever, organic waste stream we're taking on, digesting it. Cow creates farts, we create renewable natural gas. Cow creates poop, that's used as fertilizer. We create digestate, which is the same thing. It's just the recovered nutrients that weren't used in that digestion process.
We were intrigued. Not only because this kind of technology would change the way the entire booze industry deals with their waste and potentially powering small cities, but because the co-founders knew to do a project of this scale, they need to bring on their family. And they set up HQ in Michigan. Sometimes, out here in Whiskeyland, the truth is a little stranger than fiction. So we headed back down south to Tennessee for an event being sponsored by Three Rivers Energy to celebrate the award of Best Young Farmer given to this fella.
I was the state winner for Tennessee, and then in January went to compete nationally in San Antonio, Texas, and placed third there. The application looks at your operation, the growth, where you was when you started, where you are now, your leadership in the community, your leadership with Farm Bureau, just a whole lot of stuff. They're looking at the big scope of everything.
The hardest working people in this country is our American farmer. Other people stack the deck sometimes against us. The cost of farming, seed and fertilizer is too expensive. So you've got to have a good partnership. You got to have good family knowledge behind you. You better be the hardest working fool in this country, which most of us are. And that's how you're going to make it here. So from Three Rivers, this is the big appreciation on the hottest day of the year so far, but it's important.
The whiskey industry has to have the corn to make their product, so it's pretty neat that we're growing the corn for them, and then they've got a product that they can send back up here to help us grow the corn.
It's no mystery that here in Whiskeyland, we love the American farmer. And though sometimes the farmer is at the end part of the process for Three Rivers, they're also an important part of the beginning.
So, Three Rivers Energy, they're using a product from Jack Daniels, and the plan is for them to pump the byproduct up here as a fertilizer and water for us farmers to use to grow the corn. We're about 30 minutes from Lynchburg, and they're gonna supposedly run a pipe up here, put in a reservoir on this farm, and then we'll pull out of that reservoir to irrigate and fertilize the cornfields.
Today, they're demonstrating a new kind of machine, essentially a drone tractor, one operated by an iPhone that can spread fertilizer across a large piece of land, all on its own.
And with this 360 machine, it will get out there in this tall corn and follow the rows because they're already mapped prior to the corn growing. And it'll drag a hose basically right beside these roots and put the nutrients and the water right at the roots so that there's quick intake and this corn gets the nitrogen that it needs really quick to fill these ears.
We may be, between these two projects, the world's largest regenerative agriculture. And that excites me because of you do this long enough, you realize everything's integrated, everything touches everything else. The key of it, as John Rivers just said under the tent, are the people, right? We can make the rest of this thing work if we find a way to work with the farmers and make a win-win situation out of it. Of course, when you meet their wives that support them and the next generation, we had 4 generations under that tent here on this farm. It's a very big idea, and we're working with global people on the back end, but as Mr. Rivers said, it's very, very local, one handshake by one handshake with these farmers. My only role here was leaving Lynchburg, where we're gonna send all this fertilizer. I said, we better go to Franklin County because I know some of these folks.
Yeah, I think the perception is that we're a bigger town, bigger city people. So when we get into Tennessee and Kentucky, like Lynchburg, and Boston, you know, for Jim and Jack, I think they thought we were big town people, you know. And then to find out that, yeah, man, my kids are the 4th generation on the farm. I was actually born in Detroit. Right till about the 4th grade, we moved to this small town of Three Rivers. Myself and my 2 sisters became the Three Rivers from Three Rivers. I have the same friends that I've had for 40 or 50 years. My father was mayor of Three Rivers years ago, really involved, and it's about giving back to the community. So this time round, I decided that this company is going to be headquartered here. And we're just going to grab the talent we can grab and make it the right talent, and get as many of them as we can to operate out of Three Rivers and start to support the small farming community.
The work they're doing at Three Rivers with projects like these, no doubt, has a big impact on local farms in small towns. But there's also an international implication, a bigger picture, and it's not so simple.
You know, it's interesting, I didn't make this up. You know, if you're going to complain about farming, don't do it with your mouth full, right? And agriculture these days includes food, fiber, cotton, shirts, but it also includes forestry products. So if you think about, in some ways, not only is the corn important to distilled spirits, but the white oak barrel is just as important for the flavor and everything they're doing. So the distilled spirits industry is very in tune with their water, with where their grains come from, as well as the right wood to make barrels. Every farmer's looking at that same thing. Every dollar a farmer spends turns over somewhere between 4 and 7 times in the local economy. They spend everything they make. It's an input intensive business, so that importance in the neighborhood matters downtown at the city square, at the restaurant. It matters at the gas station, at the cooperative that sells them everything, and that simply just rolls up. Before you know it, the governors realize it's the #1 industry in most states, as it is in Tennessee and Kentucky. A lot of our fertilizer comes from outside the U.S., so this is not only energy independence, it's national security and other things like that. We received a grant in the previous administration when Russia was invaded, fertilizer got very expensive. There's a grant program, and we got the largest grant from that, but Mr. Rivers gave it back because he wanted it to go to smaller operations than we were. So it was all about supply, demand, shorter supply chains. Everything that happened in COVID happened again for fertilizer when Ukraine was invaded, because that's where a lot of our fertilizer comes from. So all that localness, all that shortening supply chain and national security is exciting to work on. Well, it's true. A lot of elected officials I know remember the good old days when they'd fight at length all day long and then go have dinner together, right? Or have a drink together, right? So I had an op-ed piece as a Three Rivers employees in the Nashville Tennessean. It published the Sunday before the election. And a Marine Corps general, a prominent Democrat, and I called for a ceasefire. We've got more important things to worry about than what we see in the media right now, what's happening. So a lot of the elected officials that I respect the most recall for more civility and more compromise, talking, listening, working together, finding common grounds. It's just what we do with our farmers and clients and vendors, and love to see more of that. And yeah, I suspect that there might be a bourbon or a whiskey in the middle of the lubricating that process.
It's hard to demonstrate, even visually, the scale of this kind of project. But this is something that's not new to John. He loves innovation, and he likes to think outside the box. And for us, seeing Jim Beam a stone's throw across the street, funneling in waste and having it turn to energy is a pretty damn cool thing.
Jack Daniels was the first to sign on. And they're the ones that really stepped out. Jim Beam was right there. Both of them super excited, super supportive. It's probably the most perfect projects I've ever seen, right? So farmer grows corn. Corn goes to make whiskey. The waste or the stillage off of making the whiskey gets turned into a renewable natural gas. And from that, the balance, which is still the same amount of gallons, is still there. All the nutrients from the corn, where the corn had actually taken it from the ground, those nutrients are all still there. And so when we make the natural gas, both the fermentation process and the natural gas process, which is digestion, the nutrients survive all of it. And we take it, we get it back to the farmer, put it on the ground, and as a fertilizer, and it goes back into the corn plant, keeps turning around. We have a zero waste on this whole process. It's just crazy.
This is our soil nutrient lagoon. This is 55 million gallons. We do have 21 agitators in the very bottom. They do rotate in a clockwise formation. And we do keep our digestate mixed up very good. What you're looking at right now is the top of the lagoon. There is a underliner, and we do have some stillage inside the lagoon right now. As you can see, it is kind of puffy, but we will be pumping to local farmers and some of the outlying farmers as well, and they will be using our soil nutrients for future growth.
What's especially cool to see is how this big project started so small.
This is the tank, has the stillage in it.
Okay.
This is the feedstock, and it's the leftovers from the distiller, right? And you can see down here, it's kind of corn colored. So after they run the mash through the still, then this is the leftover. So all the alcohol's been taken off to go into barrels. This comes under the road to us. Remember down at the beginning tank you saw where the pipes come under the road? Yeah, so this is what's coming in there. And then down on the other end there's a little pump that gives it a dose of food every so often on a schedule. And that's how it goes into so this is the equivalent of that train 1 tank.
Yeah.
This first one, the train 2 tank is where we pull that off right at the tail end. So that sample we just pulled is basically the digestate, the fertilizer. So I had some experiments to do blending the fertilizer with some other components to see if we can make it a little more easily applied. So that's what that was for, yeah. So every few days, David fills this up with some more stillage, and we just keep sending it over.
Obviously, 7/10 of a mile down the road, I've seen the transformations of the Jim Beam facility in the past 56 years. You know, I'm 56 years old, so I was able to watch the transformation. And as a matter of fact, it's actually very interesting watching it go from where it was for me 39 years ago as a local to where it is now. And for us to become part of it, it's just fantastic for me as a local.
So in a small town, and even with my own kids, most of the time the kids grow up to graduate from high school and they can't wait to get out of town because they think that there's this great big wonderful world outside of where they grew up. Just too small, there's nothing to offer. A lot of them hopefully come back, right? And you need to get out and see the world. I never wanted to leave here. Never had a moment in my life where I said, I just want to get out of town. Because I didn't think, quite honestly, the success or how I define success depended on being away from here. I've never left here. I never moved away. Look at what this company is achieving out of a small little town, right? And when I tell people what we do, and a lot of people in town don't really even know for sure, don't maybe even understand it when I do try to explain it to them. But to have a company in this small town that could be so impactful to a Jim Beam and a Jack Daniels and, you know, some of the next steps of probably a couple of the largest brewers in the world and change the sugarcane industry, you know, the impact that we're having. The fact that at some point I think we'll be at least on digested renewable natural gas. We might end up being one of the largest in the country here real soon, if not already. What I hope people learn is that big things can happen in small towns.
As we ended our time with Mr. Rivers of the Three Rivers in the town of Three Rivers, he left us with one poignant thought. It's not about what your town gives to you, but what you can give to your town. And with that, we headed back to our dad's bourbon library. Dad, if you were going to start any business and it had to include Devin, Alec, and I as your employees, this is a serious question. What business would you start? What kind of business would you start?
Well, actually, Devin and I wrote a business proposal for his college
Oh, really?
Senior year, maybe? Marketing class.
That you two would be as a business together?
To make
No,
it into
it
a
was just-
restaurant
It was
franchise.
kind of
Oh.
an idea I had that we grew into a whole, that he grew into a whole business plan.
What was the idea?
It was a Italian
Surgeoni,
food,
whatever.
but the fun like spaghetti western theme throughout the whole restaurant, but with new technology. So I had like tab.
Table would have digital screens that
The
you
whole
could order
table-
from or play games on.
The whole table was a tablet because you could buy these even in 2012. They had
It's funny
tablet
because that
tables.
has become the nightmare now. Like we're like, oh, this thing's not working. The table's just blue.
well,
We're all like, I want to go back to having a regular menu.
So that's not the one I want though.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I
what
want to
would
make
it-
pizza and drink bourbon.
Yeah. So if you were to
So-
start a business with your 3 kids, you would do a pizza bourbon thing?
Pizza and bourbon. Yeah, where you could have pizza and whatever, and then like a tasting room for bourbon.
I feel like you'd have to. You do at the end. You know when you go buy candy at the or when you go to pay your bill, there's like mints and stuff.
yeah.
You do need to fill that with Tums or like Prilosec. All right, guys, cheers to big projects, cilantro, to family projects and big projects. I hope you guys do start a business. That'd be cool.
Well, I got to find a retirement job now.
That's an odd idea.
I know.
What you need to do is take surf lessons.